On September 15th, 2024, a man entered the Trump International Golf Course at West Palm Beach, Florida, in what is assumed to be a second attempted assassination on the former president's life. But fortunately, the Secret Service was able to spot him before he was able to get a shot off at the former president, and he was scared away, leaving behind all of his evidence at the scene. He was later apprehended and went peacefully. But what makes this one different is the fact that he left his weapons behind, and pictures were surfaced almost immediately afterward of the weapon, and things were wild there for a while. People were saying that it was an AK-47. People didn't really know what it was, but then we got more detailed photographs of it, and I am really excited to show you something here today. Oh boy, this one's going to be a little controversial probably. That's right, we built the Florida SKS, and we're going to test it today to see how accurate this horrid configuration is. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Adam, aka the Hot and Fuzzy, and today we're going to be talking about the Florida SKS. Full disclosure and a little bit of a disclaimer here. I'm not here to prove any kind of political point or anything like that. I try to keep that stuff out of my videos. I just kind of want to give an analysis of the gun itself, because all of the videos I've seen online so far of people talking about this, they haven't had a rifle in front of them really to show that it was the same model in that same kind of stock. And I kind of want to show how the shooter may have actually put this thing together and mounted it, because everybody that I've seen so far is just crap talked it and made fun of it and not really given like any useful information, it seems like. Also, I'm not going to be mentioning the shooter's name, because I just don't think that anybody that does any kind of dumb crime like this deserves any kind of notoriety. And in the words of the late great Paul Harrell, I know the shooter's name, but I choose not to mention it. So with all that being said, let's get into this rifle. Okay, so from what I can tell from the photos that have been released, it seems like the rifle was definitely an SKS pattern rifle, and it seems by a few distinctive details to be a Chinese one, most likely a Type 56 SKS produced in the Norinco factory in the 60s or 70s. A couple of ways you can actually determine this is if you look at the gas block, it'll have a couple of dimples right here on the side, and that's pretty distinctive of the Norinco ones, as well as there not being a lightning cut on the bayonet lug. Those are pretty distinctive features of Norinco SKSs, and I'm not an SKS expert. This is just some research that I've gathered. I picked up this SKS a couple months ago, just like on a whim, and I thought it was just a cool deal and everything, and I actually just happened to have it already in this Monte Carlo stock, and it seems like this is the exact same type of stock and configuration that the shooter had. The main difference that he did was that he modified it in a way to have a scope mounted to it in a very kludgy way. And that is one thing that I want to kind of go over and see if we can replicate here, because there is a big misconception that someone couldn't shoot accurately with a rudimentary setup like that. But the thing is if you look at war photographs from recent conflicts, and not even recent ones, going all the way back to, when the SKS was first coming out, people in conflict zones throughout the world, when these things have been implemented in just a fast fashion where people have to use what they have, people would often mount optics to them in any way they could. And I've seen plenty of photographs from like Syria, Afghanistan, and stuff like that, where people have literally optics wired or taped to the top of SKSs. And the thing is you got to realize, even if it's not on a proper mount, like a manufactured proper drilled and tapped mount, if it is on there securely and to a point that can somewhat hold zero in a combat situation, that's still going to be an advantage, being able to have magnification. My personal opinion is it doesn't really matter how you actually mount this thing. What's more important is if it can be zeroed and if it will hold zero, and all that really depends on is how tightly it is secured. So what I want to do is basically replicate what he may have done. I mean, we don't really know if the shooter did it himself. We know that he acquired his gun illegally, so we don't really know if it was set up beforehand or if he set it up himself. You can see by the photographs that he had some kind of cheap, what looks like a 4-power scope on there. He mounted it with what looks like hose clamps or zip ties, covered it in electrical tape, and he has put some kind of can on the back of it as what looks like a light block or something like that, a sun diffuser. Who knows what this guy was thinking. So what we're going to do is we have what I think he may have had access to use, and we're going to see if we can mount this up and see if we can get it zeroed and see if it would hold zero. I don't have the space or to take the shots all the way out. I don't really have the space to take those kinds of shots out here, but we're going to take a couple shots at 75 yards and see if the thing will hold zero, and see if that can maybe prove of concept. So let's dive into it. Okay, so with all that being said, I can say with a pretty good level of certainty that this SKS in question was a Chinese Type 56 more than likely. And you can tell from the photographs that it was in an ATI Monte Carlo stock, which is exactly what we've got here. This is Type 56, is clutched together from a couple different guns. It's basically, I call it my Franken SKS, and it's in a older Monte Carlo ATI stock. So that's the first part of this thing actually covered. So the next part of the puzzle is our scope, and for that I didn't really know what he went with in the photographs. It's really hard to tell because it looks like he has the name scratched off of it. So I just went with a cheap Barska, and because I figured the one on there was probably pretty cheap anyway. So we'll unbox this thing here. This video turns into an unboxing, and not too bad, wrapped up like a condom. But first thing I want to see, just with like without modifying anything, we can mount that on there. We can just sit that on there. So you kind of can see without all that tape and crap on there what my idea is of what he was doing there. I actually had that backwards, my bad. It would have been like that without the covers on. So let's get our tools and see if we can't mount this up. See, I looked around, I couldn't find any hose clamps that were big enough at a hardware store or around here to mount this on. So I decided to go with something equally as redneck, and I think it will end up working for us. A couple different kinds of zip ties. So grab our tools and let's see what we can do here. Another accessory that the shooter had attached to his SKS was some kind of aftermarket mag. It might have been a Pro Mag or some kind of magazine like that. It looked to be made of metal, and those magazines attach and replace the bottom magazine cover and magazine housing for the SKS. And I tried to get one of those to work on this thing, and to be honest, sometimes these things are hard to fit. This thing is really tight put together anyway, and actually probably isn't fitted properly anyway, and I just could not get that thing to fit. So I trashed that idea. And I don't think it's really important for the video anyway, because that doesn't have anything to do with the accuracy. So we're not going to include that magazine, but that was an accessory that was found at the scene with the rifle. I think that whenever I mount this up here, I'm just going to leave it how it came, and I'm going to try to get that as far back as I can from that action. Because like I said, when you fire for the SKS, it fires from an internal magazine, and it comes back and it blows the rounds directly up. So they're gonna, if your scope is forward and doesn't have any kind of shielding, you're gonna have rounds impacting that scope. So let's see if we can't get this mounted up here. I'm gonna try these first, and it just has to be on there I feel like it just has to be on there squared pretty much, and to where it's gonna be tight, and that's really all that matters with getting it on there. And he just looked like two bands like going across each side, and looks like we'll be able to do that here. This is crazy. This is Gunbusters. I've always wanted to be on Mythbusters. That was the best show ever. Put a like down below if you grew up watching Mythbusters. I freaking love that show. God. And this is awkward to do and show you guys on camera. Get a second one up and just get it rudimentally put on there, and I'll center it. The whole point of this is to show that you don't really need a proper scope mount to get a zero. Okay, so we went ahead and added a couple of more black zip ties and we clipped off our ends there. As you can see, that actually mounts up decently well, and when we shoulder it, it actually shoulders fairly decently. I'm going to add the tape to hopefully keep this secured down to keep it from moving any, and do it really tightly, and we'll get this thing mounted up good. Oh, and one other thing that he added, I couldn't really tell what the thing was he added on the back, but to me it looked like some kind of bug spray or sunscreen can. So we'll add this to our scope just to complete the look. And when we get done, we'll give this thing a shot, see how it goes. Let's tape this up there now, though. So let's keep just wrapping this thing. Hopefully we can get this to where it won't move at all. Because like I said, when you buy proper SKS mounts, they have a shield most of the time, or they mount the thing far enough back, or you just don't put a scope on the thing that's this long. That's just general rule of thumb. So I know it looks like I'm putting a lot on here, and I am, but I'm just trying to be pretty generous because I know a little bit about 7.62, and it can recoil and move stuff around and break things, and I don't want this thing moving. All right, that's a lot of tape, probably even more on the mounts than he used, but I didn't find hose clamps big enough. I think, looking at this, at least on the receiver, from my end, it looks pretty square. It looks decently square. Looks like I can deal with it. And the crosshair looks pretty level with the top of the receiver. So, let's see how this feels. And that isn't going anywhere. Like for now, like, you can't hear nothing. I'm holding that by the scope. That's on there tight. So let's put our finishing touches on this thing and give it a try. Okay. For some reason in the photograph, he had some kind of can of some kind taped to the back of his lens here. I went with just some cheap sunscreen. So let's empty our can out here. Oh, it smells like summertime. This is not gonna be fast enough. I've got an idea. Yeah, shut the top. That's what I wanted to do. We got right in the top. Perfect. Now we just got to cut this off and stick it on the scope. Okay, so we cut the bottom off of it. There's like a surprise inside of this thing. Come with a prize or secret message? No, it's just like a condom bag for the sunscreen. Okay, so we'll tape that up so I don't get cut messing with it. Okay, now I shouldn't cut myself, and we'll see. He didn't have a ton on there. We'll cut it about there. Make sure I don't cut myself. Don't cut yourself. Let's make sure not to cut yourself. I'm sure this is the proper way to do this with a $4 Walmart hacksaw, but I talk about guns on the internet. I don't make stuff. Oh yeah, that's a beautiful cut right there. That's a beautiful straight cut. Look at how straight that cut is. All right, with all the precision our shooter probably used, there we go. That's our scope cover. And voila! I think this is pretty much as close to the rifle as I can get. I went ahead and added one more extra strap up here because it didn't seem like it was quite tight enough. But now that thing is not moving. We got our rudimentary sunshade on there, and I feel like this is as close to a match to the rifle as I can put together to present to you all. I like to do stuff like this because I'm a hands-on learner, and this really gives you an idea into what the rifle actually was when you can see it up close like this. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to bore sight this thing and see if it will hold a group. So let's get to testing. Okay, so we're set up here to do a little bit of sighting in. We can see from the photograph that it looked like he was using some kind of Russian steel cased ammo, and that's exactly what we have, some surplus is Russian steel cased ammo. We're gonna load a few rounds up and take a couple shots just out of cardboard sight-in target down range. See where we land and see if they somewhat hold zero. Thank you. We're also going to find out if that casing breaks the scope when it comes out because it is a little bit forward over that, and find out if this hits me in the eye. That's another reason why I have these. So gonna get good and braced into it here, give myself a good hold on that target. Here we go. This feels kind of crazy to do this. First shots with the Florida SKS. No idea where that hit, but it looks like it's cycled. Let's check. I don't see any big dings on there. It looks like it might have hit right there. But weapon's still hot. Let's take another shot. Okay, yeah, we're hitting the target. Okay, so we are on the paper. We'll do some fine tuning and move out a little further. We can't believe that this is working. The rounds are smacking the scope right here, but they're not cracking the glass. They're not damaging it really anything. You can see little marks. And the thing is cycling. We're gonna see if we can get this dialed in a little closer and take some shots out to 75 yards. See if we can stack a group. Okay, yeah, we're moving it in now. We're moving it in. We're moving it in. You know what? I'm gonna call that good enough. This thing seems to be holding on fairly well. Now that we've got it somewhat zeroed, it's kind of hard to tell with the grouping at this close. Let's stretch things out to 75 yards as far as we have at our range right here. Okay, so now we are set up at 75 yards. We're gonna fire a 5-shot group and see exactly how accurate this thing is. See if it can hold a zero, even in this horrid configuration that it's in. Let's take a few shots with the Florida Trump Golf Course SKS build, 75 yards. See just how accurate this thing is. And mainly if it can hold zero. And if the scope is gonna blow up in my face. So here we go. Hopefully we hit somewhere on the target. We have got it sighted in good enough. Here we go, moment of truth. That scope hit me in the face that time. Why would someone do this? Oh my gosh, this is the worst build ever. It's so trench rat and awful that, like, oh my gosh. Hopefully I don't shoot my camera down range. Slow my heart rate down. Do this last shot good. All right. Well, scope didn't break. Got more marks there on the bottom. It is definitely galding up the bottom of that scope quite a bit. The rifle is functioning, and I'm kind of surprised by that, even with this sticking over it. I mean, it does make sense. Those mounts do have things that go over it. I just figured it might do more damage to the scope. But let's go take a look down range, see how we did. Okay, we're hitting high. So I did superficially zero this thing. I'm gonna say, like, I just quickly sighted it in down there at like 15 yards. We fired a 5-shot group up here, hoping to hit on the paper. We kind of hit off the paper a little bit, but you can see there are a lot of hits on the back stop of this, but we can definitely see we got 1, 2, 3, and 4. I believe, we'll check the footage, but 1, 2, 3, and 4 on, probably a flyer off. I don't see any other what look like 7.62 hits on this. I mean, it could maybe be that one. Oh, it is. We got 3. Okay, we do have 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is a very surprising group to me. It's probably about a 4-inch group, 3.5 to 4-inch group at 75 yards. Definitely not MOA or anything like that, but that does fall into the realm of like battle rifle accuracy. And as we can see, the rifle is holding zero well enough that I believe that if you multiply this number by 4, like if we took this from 75 to 100, you're not going to see this group spread out much more. And then if we take this group and we multiply that by 4 out to 400 to accumulate for the accuracy, you're going to be shooting in a man-sized area. And that's kind of the point that I wanted to make with this video, is the fact that these things don't have to be exactly dialed in to be potentially accurate out past, you know, a reasonable distance. And if, as long as this thing is mounted securely and the shooter knows where to aim, you know, 7.62 x 3.9 will shoot decently accurately out to 600 yards. And this is really interesting test to see. Maybe in a future video we'll take this thing out and be able to stretch it out at a further distance. But I'm really glad that I was able to show and see some function testing of this thing and see exactly how tight of a grip we could get with just clamping this thing down with some rudimentary hardware from the hardware store. All right, so in conclusion, was the Florida SKS a bad rifle? Yes, absolutely. It's terribly set up and horribly configured, and there are much better options to mount a scope to an SKS. You can get a proper, an actual proper top dovetail receiver. You can put sight blocks on. You can put it in an actual mounted stock that would actually mount a scope correctly. There are many ways to go about this that are better than this horrid configuration here. But I do think that I was able to prove the original concept that I was thinking throughout this entire thing. And that is, if you get a scope mounted onto something solidly and it is zeroed, it will be as accurate as the gun itself is. And I've done accuracy tests with this thing. I'm not the best shot with this rifle, and the grouping I was getting up there was was about the same size as the groups I was doing with irons. And people can shoot SKS irons out to 400 yards. It's known and common. The sights are graduated on them well past that. So I definitely think that if somebody knew what they were doing and this was all they had access to, it could potentially be used for that. Not that I condone any behavior like that. That is horrible. No one should. We absolutely we have a very delicate system of checks and balances in place in our country that has been set by the founding fathers so that we can go to the ballot box every election period and be able to vote unanimously as a country where our country goes. And if you mess with that, you're going to face the consequences. So that's all I have to say about that, and that's pretty much all I have to say about this rifle. I think it was really wild that I owned one of these already and I was able to kind of go through this and build it myself and see into like the mind of how this was configured and how it went together. It's really kind of crazy, disturbing, messed up, and macabre, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. God, I really hope YouTube monetizes this. They should. And please, ATF, don't shoot my dog. I love him. I just really wanted to be able to show you guys this hands-on. So again, I really appreciate you guys watching this video. Just surpassed 7,400 subs. That's amazing. After coming back, it's really motivating to see you guys coming forward. I want to welcome any new viewers and subs to the channel. I really, really appreciate that. We also have a new Patreon up for the channel. I'm going to be posting on there regularly here pretty soon. So check that out down below. The tiers start at just $1 and they really help me out. Anything will go strictly towards helping this channel get better. We'll get new targets, stuff like that, and maybe different things that we can test in the future. So once again, I just want to thank each and every one of you for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
I got the cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gone live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad.
That's it. I'm taking this thing off. I can't stand it. Why would anyone do this? What an idiot. Ugh, God. It's so much better.